My friends, please subscribe to my channel, like the video and write a comment, and we begin. Part 1. The Telltale Lipstick Expanded. Our house in Westport, Connecticut was the kind you see in magazines. A sprawling colonial with a perfectly manicured lawn, a 2-car garage, and a swing set in the backyard. It was everything we had worked towards, the culmination of years of striving for the American dream. But lately, the picture-perfect facade had started to feel suffocating. Mark was always meticulous, almost obsessively so. He was a partner at a prestigious law firm in Manhattan, a position he'd clawed his way to with relentless ambition and an unwavering attention to detail. He'd spend hours polishing his vintage 1967 Ford Mustang, his pride and joy, ensuring not a speck of dust dared settle on its pristine, cherry-red surface. He'd even chastise our kids if they got too close with sticky fingers. His ties were always perfectly knotted, his suits impeccably tailored, pressed so sharp they could cut glass. Every hair was in place. That's why the lipstick stain on his crisp white dress shirt collar was so jarring, so utterly out of character, like a deliberate act of defiance against his own carefully constructed image. He was a man who wouldn't spill a drop of coffee on his shirt, let alone wear lipstick. It wasn't my shade. I'd always favored a classic, bold red, a vibrant crimson that matched my personality. It was a statement, a reflection of my fiery spirit, my passion for life. I was an artist, a painter, and my style extended to my makeup, my clothes, everything I did. This, though, was a soft, almost nude peachy pink, the kind you barely notice, the kind that blends in rather than stands out. A shade for someone wanting to disappear. And there it was, a telltale smudge of it, unmistakable against the starched white fabric. It was small, almost negligible, but it was there, taunting me. A blatant, undeniable sign that something was terribly wrong. We'd been married for 12 years. 12 years of building a life together, brick by brick, constructing this comfortable, predictable existence. We met in college, fell in love quickly, and married soon after graduation. We bought the house, had the kids, 2 beautiful, bright children, Emily and Ethan, adopted a golden retriever named Cooper, and settled into a routine of soccer games, PTA meetings, and Sunday brunches with the neighbors. The whole American dream package, neatly wrapped and delivered. But lately, something had felt off. Subtly at first, then with increasing intensity. Mark had been working longer hours, spending more time in the city, claiming the pressure at the firm was immense. He was traveling more frequently for business, attending conferences and client meetings in exotic locations. And whenever he returned, he seemed distant, emotionally unavailable. His eyes were glazed over, and he acted as if he was in another world. He was present physically, but absent mentally. We used to talk for hours. But now, our conversations were limited to logistical details and superficial pleasantries. The spark was gone. The intimacy had vanished, replaced by a growing chasm of silence and unspoken resentments. He'd stopped looking at me with love in his eyes, and his hugs felt forced, perfunctory. I tried to dismiss the lipstick stain as a simple mistake, a stray mark from a friendly colleague at some work event. Maybe someone was wearing a shade of pink, gave him a hug, and didn't notice it. But the nagging feeling persisted, a persistent whisper in the back of my mind. It was a seed of doubt planted deep in my subconscious, a feeling that something was fundamentally wrong, that our marriage was teetering on the brink of collapse. That night, as Mark slept soundly beside me, his breathing deep and even, I couldn't shake the feeling that my life was about to change forever. The weight of the unspoken hung heavy in the air, pressing down on me, suffocating me with its intensity. I was about to discover the depth of his deception. Everything I thought I knew about my husband, about my marriage, about my future, was about to be irrevocably shattered. I couldn't sleep. I could just see the smudge in my head. That pink lipstick. It was a promise of pain. Part 2. The Other Woman Expanded. The next few days were a torturous blur of anxiety, paranoia, and sleepless nights. The image of the lipstick stain haunted me, flickering at the edge of my vision like a persistent ghost. Every time Mark looked at me, smiled at me, or touched me, I felt a wave of revulsion, a sense of being contaminated by his lies. I couldn't bring myself to confront Mark directly, fearing the truth more than the suffocating weight of uncertainty. I was afraid of the confirmation, the admission, the destruction of everything I held dear. But the suspicion was eating away at me, consuming my thoughts, poisoning my soul. I was a prisoner in my own mind, trapped in a cycle of doubt and despair, driven by a desperate need for answers, a primal urge to unearth the truth. I started snooping. It was a violation of trust, I knew that, a descent into a world of deceit and suspicion that was foreign to my nature. But I felt like I had no choice. I needed to know, one way or another, if my fears were justified. I started with his phone, the seemingly innocuous device that had become a portal to his secret life. I waited until he was in the shower, the sound of the water masking my movements. I knew his password, a combination of our children's birthdays, a detail that now felt like a twisted joke. I scrolled through his call logs, his text messages, his social media accounts, searching for any clue, any hint of infidelity. I felt like a terrible person, a character in a bad spy movie, furtively rummaging through her husband's personal belongings, betraying the very foundation of our marriage. But I couldn't stop myself. The need to know, the burning desire to uncover the truth, outweighed any sense of guilt or shame. It didn't take long to find what I was looking for. Buried deep within his phone, hidden in a folder labeled Work Documents, was a series of text messages. The messages were from a number saved only as Olivia, a name that sent a jolt of fear through my heart. I opened the messages, my hands trembling, my breath catching in my throat. They were flirtatious, suggestive, filled with coded language and late-night rendezvous. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow night," one message read. "Thinking of you constantly," another declared. "Missing your touch," a third confessed. Each message was a stab to the heart, a confirmation of my worst fears. The blood drained from my face, and I felt a wave of nausea rising in my throat. I had been right all along. He was cheating on me. I moved on to his emails, a treasure trove of information just waiting to be plundered. I knew his password for that too. It felt too easy, as if he wanted me to find out. I did a quick search for Olivia and braced myself for what would come up. I found her. Her name was Olivia Sterling, a young, attractive woman with long blonde hair and piercing blue eyes. She worked at Mark's firm, a junior associate climbing the corporate ladder with ambition and ruthless determination. A Google search brought up her LinkedIn profile, her photo smiling confidently from the screen. She looked young, vibrant, the antithesis of everything I had become. And then it clicked. The peachy pink lipstick. The lipstick worn by a young, ambitious woman. The lipstick that now adorned my husband's collar. The pieces of the puzzle fell into place with a sickening thud. The nausea washed over me again, stronger this time, threatening to overwhelm me. I stumbled to the bathroom and vomited, emptying the contents of my stomach into the toilet. I felt physically ill, emotionally drained, utterly and completely devastated. My world began to crumble. Everything I thought I knew about my husband, about my marriage, about my life, suddenly felt like a lie. I had been living in a fool's paradise, blinded by love and trust, while he had been betraying me every step of the way. The lipstick stain, the text messages, the emails, the photograph. They were all pieces of a puzzle that painted a devastating picture of infidelity and deceit. My world had shattered completely, and I didn't know where to go from here. Part 3. The decision expanded. The apartment felt cold, sterile. No longer the warm and inviting home I had painstakingly created. Each familiar object now seemed to mock me, whispering reminders of the love and trust that had been irrevocably shattered. Mark's presence, even when he was absent, hung heavy in the air, a constant reminder of his betrayal. Confronting Mark was out of the question. The thought of facing him, of hearing his excuses, his denials, his inevitable apologies that would ring hollow and false, was unbearable. I couldn't subject myself to that kind of emotional torture. I knew, deep down, that our marriage was over. He had broken something fundamental, something sacred, something that couldn't be repaired with empty words and hollow promises. But I didn't want a messy divorce, a drawn-out battle for assets and custody. I had seen too many friends and family members dragged through the mud of bitter legal proceedings, their lives consumed by anger, resentment, and financial ruin. I didn't want that for myself, and I certainly didn't want that for my children. I didn't want to subject our children, Emily and Ethan, to the pain and turmoil of a broken home, to the constant fighting, the divided loyalties, the emotional scars that would last a lifetime. They were innocent, precious beings, and they deserved to be shielded from the ugliness of their father's infidelity. I wanted to disappear, to vanish without a trace, to start over, to reinvent myself, to find a new life far away from Mark, from Olivia, from the stifling constraints of my suburban existence. I wanted to reclaim my identity, to rediscover my passions, to find a sense of peace and fulfillment that had eluded me for so long. I wanted freedom. The decision came to me in a moment of sudden clarity, a surge of adrenaline that cut through the fog of despair. It was radical, unconventional, perhaps even reckless. But it felt right, a desperate act of self-preservation, a way to protect myself and my children from further harm. I spent weeks meticulously planning my escape, carefully crafting a new identity, gathering the necessary documents, and quietly liquidating my assets. I applied for a new passport under a different name, using a birth certificate from a distant relative who had died in infancy. I opened a bank account in the Cayman Islands, transferring small amounts of money from our joint account over time, careful not to raise any red flags. I sold my jewelry, my designer handbags, anything of value that wouldn't be missed. I practiced a new signature, a new way of speaking, a new way of carrying myself. I studied maps of foreign countries, researched different cultures, and practiced speaking new languages. I transformed into someone completely different. I told Mark I was going on a solo wellness retreat to clear my head, to recharge my batteries, to find some inner peace. I feigned exhaustion, claiming the stress of motherhood and wifedom had finally taken its toll. He didn't seem to care, his mind already consumed by Olivia, his attention focused elsewhere. He simply nodded absently, offering a perfunctory "have a good time," without even looking up from his phone. The day I left, the weight of my decision pressed down on me, heavy and suffocating. I knew I was leaving behind everything I had ever known, everything I had ever loved. But I also knew that I was doing what was necessary, that I was choosing my own well-being, my own sanity, my own future. I wrote a letter to my children, pouring out my heart, explaining my reasons for leaving, assuring them that I loved them more than anything in the world and that I would always be there for them, even if I couldn't be physically present. I promised them that one day, when they were old enough to understand, I would find a way to reconnect with them, to explain everything fully and completely. It was the hardest letter I'd ever had to write. I cried as I finished it. I left the letter on Mark's pillow, along with my wedding ring, a final act of closure, a symbolic severing of the ties that had bound me to him for so long. Then, with a deep breath, a silent prayer, and a heart filled with both fear and hope, I walked out the door and never looked back. Part 4. The Search Expanded. The initial shock of my disappearance quickly morphed into a nationwide obsession. My story, the tale of a suburban housewife who vanished without a trace, became a media sensation, dominating headlines and captivating the public imagination. Months turned into years. The seasons changed, life moved on, but the mystery of my whereabouts remained stubbornly unsolved. Mark, initially devastated and bewildered, quickly became the focus of intense scrutiny and suspicion. Had he driven me away? Was he somehow involved in my disappearance? Had he hurt me? He hired private investigators, spending a fortune trying to track me down, desperate to clear his name and assuage his guilt. The investigators followed leads, interviewed witnesses, and scoured the globe, but to no avail. I had vanished completely, leaving behind no trace, no clue to my ultimate fate. The police were involved, of course, conducting searches, issuing subpoenas, and treating my disappearance as a missing person case, with the potential for foul play. They interviewed Mark repeatedly, subjecting him to lie detector tests and intense questioning. But they found no concrete evidence to implicate him in any wrongdoing. My picture was plastered across news websites, television screens, and missing person posters, a constant reminder of my absence. My story was dissected and analyzed, speculated about and sensationalized. Experts weighed in, offering their theories and opinions, ranging from abduction and murder to suicide and a carefully planned escape. Mark remarried Olivia within a year of my disappearance, a decision that sparked public outrage and fueled further speculation about his involvement in my vanishing act. He put on a brave face for the cameras, appearing contrite and remorseful, claiming that he never stopped loving me and that he just wanted me to come home. He played the grieving husband perfectly, shedding tears, expressing his sorrow, and pleading for my safe return. It was an award-winning performance. Olivia, meanwhile, played the grieving mistress-turned-wife, expressing her sympathy for my family and hoping for my safe return. She claimed that she had nothing to do with my disappearance and that she just wanted to support Mark during this difficult time. The public seemed to be divided, some expressing sympathy for Mark and Olivia, while others were disgusted by their apparent callousness. But the truth was, they were relieved. My disappearance had freed them from the messy realities of divorce, allowing them to start their new life together without the burden of guilt, recrimination, or legal entanglements. They had gotten away with it, or so they thought. The world assumed I was dead, a victim of foul play, a casualty of a broken marriage. They mourned my loss, speculated about my motives, and ultimately moved on. My story became a cautionary tale of marital infidelity and suburban despair, a chilling reminder of the dark secrets that can lurk beneath the surface of seemingly perfect lives. But they were wrong. I was very much alive, living a secret existence far away from the prying eyes of the world, waiting for the right moment to reveal myself, to reclaim my narrative, and to deliver my final, devastating blow. My parents got old waiting for me to come home, and their health declined knowing I was out there somewhere, possibly in harm's way. Every holiday, every birthday, the empty seat at the table served as a painful reminder of my absence, a constant source of grief and anguish. My children grew up without me, navigating the complexities of adolescence without my guidance or support. They grew up thinking I'd abandoned them. What could I do? Tell them the truth now? Part 5. The shocking truth about her whereabouts expanded. The world believed I was a tragic victim, a statistic in the annals of missing persons cases. They saw me as a broken woman, driven to despair by her husband's betrayal. They pitied me, mourned me, and eventually forgot about me. But I wasn't a victim. I wasn't dead. I wasn't hiding in the shadows, consumed by grief and regret. I was very much alive, thriving in a world far removed from the sterile confines of my former life. I was living my best life on my own terms, without the constraints of societal expectations or the suffocating weight of Mark's betrayal. After leaving Connecticut, I had embarked on a journey of self-discovery, traveling the world, immersing myself in different cultures, and exploring my long-neglected passions. I learned to speak fluent Italian, mastered the art of Tuscan cooking, and discovered a newfound love for landscape painting. I lived in a small, picturesque village in Tuscany, surrounded by rolling hills, vineyards, and olive groves, a world away from the manicured lawns and stifling conformity of Westport. I found joy and fulfillment in creating beauty, in expressing my emotions through color and form, in connecting with the natural world. I rented a small studio in the village, where I painted landscapes and taught art classes to tourists, sharing my newfound passion with others. I was surrounded by beauty, by creativity, by people who appreciated me for who I was, not for who I was supposed to be. One day, years after my disappearance, while showcasing my artwork online, my daughter, Emily, stumbled across my online gallery. She was in her early 20s now, a bright, independent young woman, a reflection of the strength and resilience I had always hoped she would possess. She recognized my style instantly, the unique brushstrokes, the vibrant colors, the distinctive subject matter that had always characterized my work. She contacted me through my website, hesitant at first, unsure if it was really me. But after a few exchanged emails, a few shared memories, we both knew it was true. We met in secret in a small, unassuming cafe in Rome, far from the prying eyes of the media and the scrutiny of my former life. It was emotional, cathartic, and ultimately healing. Tears flowed freely as we embraced, mother and daughter reunited after years of separation. I explained my reasons for leaving, my need to escape, my desire to find myself. I told her about the pain, the betrayal, and the fear that had driven me to abandon everything she knew. She listened patiently, her eyes filled with empathy and understanding. I promised her that I would always be there for her, that I would never abandon her again. I told her that I loved her, that I missed her, and that I regretted every day that we had spent apart. She said she understood, and that she loved me too. But here's the real twist, the moment of poetic justice that had been brewing for years, my artistic breakthrough. The series of paintings that had catapulted me to international acclaim was all thanks to Olivia. I decided to paint portraits. The Olivia Sterling collection, my most successful and most lucrative series, consisted of stunning portraits of strong, independent women, their faces radiating strength, resilience, and inner beauty. But who served as my original model, the inspiration for my artistic vision? It was all thanks to the photos Emily had showed me of Olivia, taken from Olivia's public Instagram. Emily showed me Olivia's LinkedIn photos, where I memorized her entire presence, her personality, her body language, everything. All those photos helped me to replicate a perfect portrait. What started as an act of spiteful revenge transformed into a powerful expression of feminine strength, a celebration of resilience and self-discovery. The Olivia Sterling collection became a symbol of empowerment, a testament to the ability of women to overcome adversity and reclaim their lives. My newfound fame and fortune allowed me to create a foundation to help children who had been through similar experiences as me. My artistic success also helped me fund my new life, providing me with financial independence and the freedom to pursue my passions without constraint. What about Mark and Olivia? They continued to live their lives in the shadow of my disappearance, haunted by the ghosts of their past. But they never saw a dime of my wealth. I worked with Emily's lawyer, her uncle, to ensure all of my assets went to the care of Emily and Ethan, providing them with financial security and a college education. I made sure to create an impossible paper trail for Mark to fight against. I wanted to ensure that Mark got absolutely nothing. It felt good knowing that he was in the dark. The missing wife didn't become a tragic statistic, a victim of betrayal and despair. She became a master of her own destiny, a powerful artist, a symbol of female empowerment, and a force for good in the world. She left behind the man who had wronged her, and she built a new life for herself, a life filled with purpose, passion, and profound satisfaction. The secret was finally out, and I was never happier.